A big thank you to my Patreon supporters such as Edgar Perez and Tom Hughes. Thank you so much. There is one type of story that seems to mostly escape that of Vincent Kennedy McMahon, which is kind of weird when you stop to think about it, because it's that story that was the very foundation in which the House of McMahon was built upon. Now, what is the story? How do you do it right? Well, that's the topic of this episode, because today...
Hey everyone, my name is Ksenia. That's called Gefa.
Okay, before we begin, there's a phrase that I'm going to have to repeat throughout the course of this video, and it's that this is not about race, or nationality either for that matter. Now, this might confuse some people, so in order to clarify things, let's cover a quick bit of linguistics. Alright, let's make it clear what we mean when we say these three words: race, nationality, and ethnicity. Since the exact definition of these words do tend to vary depending on who you ask, and there is also a fair amount of crossover, as well as the fact that a lot of people use them interchangeably, even though they don't 100% mean the same exact thing. But for today's video, these are going to be the working definitions that we will be going by. First up is nationality. As Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines it, national status, a legal relationship involving allegiance on the part of an individual and usually protection on the part of the state nationality bestowed by birth, membership in a particular nation. This specifies what country you are a citizen of. While your ancestry can come from one country, the one you claim as home is what your nationality is. And when it comes to being an ethnic hero, your national status really has nothing to do with it, as you can be an ethnic hero as an immigrant, but you can also be one as a native citizen. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's move on to the next word. Let's tackle race. Defined as any one of the groups that humans are often divided into based on physical traits regarded as common among people of their shared ancestry. Race has to do with your DNA, your genetic background. Regardless of where you live or where you were born, you are always going to be the race that you are. That cannot change, even if your citizenship does. Now, this can sometimes get confused with nationality, since a person's race is tied to where their ancestors came from. However, they are two different things. And with that out the way, let's move on to the third and hardest to define word, ethnicity. Of or relating to large groups of people classed according to a common racial, national, tribal, religious, linguistic, or cultural origin or background. Being a member of a specified ethnic group, of, relating to, or characteristic of a minority ethnic group. And that's why this one can be a bit tricky. Yes, sometimes race and nationality do coincide with a person's ethnicity, but again, they don't always have to. Think of ethnicity as a culture. Things like customs, languages, social behavior, these are the things that make up a person's ethnicity. For example, Bruno Sammartino and Hulk Hogan have a common ancestry, as both individuals had ancestors that came from Italy. So racially, they are the same. But that doesn't mean they're the same in every other category, as they were both born in different countries and both speak a different first language, as well as having other cultural differences, even if there are some that do line up as well. Oh, and just one more thing. For the purposes of this video, we are going to be sticking to that third part of the definition, because when we use the word ethnic, we are going to be talking about ethnic minorities as they relate to the United States. Okay, so everybody got all that? Alright, with that finally out of the way, let's just dive on in. We begin, appropriately enough, at the beginning. In the early days of WWE, when the company was the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, the promotion followed one main formula as their main staple, the story of the ethnic hero. While Buddy Rogers was indeed the first WWF World Heavyweight Champion, he only held onto the belt for 36 days before losing the championship to Bruno Sammartino, who would become the very star that the company was built off of. Now, the significance of this was that Bruno Sammartino was an Italian immigrant, and in the New York area where the WWF was based, Bruno served as a huge cultural figure for the Italian American community that was there. Not only that, but at the time, he was actually suspended from wrestling in the United States, and before that, he felt that he was unfairly being overlooked as NWA World Champion in favor of Buddy Rogers. That is, until the newly emancipated WWF paid Bruno's fines and booked him to win the championship from the Nature Boy Buddy Rogers himself. But Bruno Sammartino wasn't the only one, because there was another major ethnic hero champion of the early years of the WWE, Pedro Morales. Pedro was born in Puerto Rico, which is a Commonwealth unincorporated territory of the United States. However, while Puerto Rico is a part of America, remember this is not about national status, but rather it's about ethnicity. Now, to say that these two dominated the landscape is something of an understatement, with Bruno's first title reign lasting 2,803 days and his second run lasting 1,237 days, not to mention the fact that Morales would end up being champion for 1,027 himself. And so, from the company's creation in April of 1963 to the end of Bruno's second run in 1977, someone other than Bruno and Pedro holding onto the title only happened for 66 days in total. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that these two definitely carried the company. Of course, this all changed when superstar Billy Graham won the championship. However, he was a heel. We wouldn't get a mainstream American babyface with the belt until the next champion came along, who was Bob Backlund. This was the first time in the company's history that the champion was both non-ethnic and a babyface. But this wouldn't be the only change for the WWF, because also during Backlund's title reign, the company would officially change over to being simply known as the World Wrestling Federation, and also, as covered in a previous video, went under the control of Vincent Kennedy McMahon. And once Vince Jr. took over, he never looked back. While Vinnie Mac Prime did use the tale of the ethnic hero as his bread and butter, Vince McMahon Jr. used the non-ethnic All-American babyface champion as his, most notably with Hulk Hogan. Now, I am not knocking this at all, as this was a very, very successful strategy and made for some of the best sports entertainment that history ever saw, in addition to also speaking to a large portion of the population that definitely deserves representation themselves. However, it is interesting to note that in all the years under Vince and Kay, for the most part, WWE really never went back to its roots, although you have to admit that it is kind of interesting with all the years under Vince and Kay that the first time he ever really tried out this strategy was with Eddie Guerrero, and that is with him being at the helm for over 2 decades, which is why I think it just goes to show that booking this might be McMahon's biggest glaring weakness. And to be clear, I'm not calling him a racist, because again, this is not about race. But if that's the case, then why doesn't Vince McMahon Jr. use the tale of the ethnic hero more often? Well, it might just come down to writing. They say to write what you know, and every writer has their strengths and weaknesses. And when it comes to Vincent Kennedy McMahon and writing wrestling, the tale of the ethnic hero appears to be one of his weak points, simply because he might just be unfamiliar with it. But yes, a good writer should be able to write outside their means. So with that being said, what's the secret to writing the ethnic hero well, and on top of that, what makes it so popular to begin with? Well, I say that all has to do with the American dream. And no, I don't mean Dusty Rhodes. Well, at least not exclusively. The American dream, the idea that anyone can succeed in America with hard work. Hey, it's a nice idea and all, one that a lot of people do believe in, and one that gives a lot of people hope and inspiration, which is exactly what the key to the angle is. Taking a wrestler and saying that someone like them doesn't get to be champion, someone like them can never make it, someone like them isn't supposed to win. But then, we, the audience, get to see that wrestler, through hard work and perseverance, overcome the hardships to win the title that they so desperately deserve. And failing to live up to that conclusion is pretty much why Booker T losing at WrestleMania 19 was just so disappointing. However, WWE did get it right with Kofi Kingston, who was told that he didn't fit the mold of what a traditional WWE champion was. However, Kofi had been busting his hump in WWE for 11 years, which all worked to make it so much more satisfying when he won the championship that he so rightfully deserved at WrestleMania. It was a total feel-good moment. Now yes, Vince McMahon and WWE were behind this story, but let's not forget that it did happen by accident, as Kofi Kingston was a last-minute substitution for Mustafa Ali. WWE had no idea that Kofi Mania would become a thing, but nevertheless they still did it, so credit where credit's due. I'm just saying it would be nice if they did it on purpose and didn't make me wait so long in between. Adding on to this, I also have to stress that ethnic is only part of the equation, as there is an exact story that has to be told as well. It has to be about the excluded, unexpected hero triumphing over adversity, which is why champions like Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre don't count in this case. Furthermore, the reason why this is popular is because of how it resonates with fans. It's about being part of a small community, one that might not be the most mainstream and is sometimes even mocked by the mainstream. But then they are given hope and a victory that is well earned. And while that's a great way to speak to a specific ethnicity, it's also a really great way to speak to all of us. Wrestling fans are sometimes ridiculed by the rest of society, not taken seriously or otherwise looked down upon. So perhaps the reason why the ethnic hero is something that we can all relate to is because we're all wrestling fans. And even if the ethnic hero in question is of a different racial background, we can still empathize and connect with them because again, this isn't about race. Well, there you go, my thoughts on the ethnic hero in professional wrestling, but who are some of your favorite ethnic hero wrestlers? Let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, as well as making sure that you're subscribed to this channel. And while I'm at it, I also want to say thank you to all of my awesome Patreon supporters out there, and if you want to be a Patreon supporter yourself, please go over and sign up, as it really does make a huge difference. And also, I want to say thank you for watching this video, and as always, Dave knows.